You gotta just love what you're doing, believe in it.
Hello, lovely. Welcome back to the Wild Business Growth Podcast. This is your place to hear from a new entrepreneur every single Wednesday morning who's turning wild ideas into wild growth. I'm your host, Max Brandstetter, founder and podcast producer at Max Podcasting. And you can email me at max@maxpodcasting.com to save time with your high-quality podcast. This is episode 275 footlong. And today's guest, it actually is guess. If that grammar is correct, sayonara, Max. Today's guests are David Greschler and Jonah Friedl, co-founders of NomadGo. Now, imagine if you were able to count your inventory using your iPad, holding it up, and it automatically identifies the objects, gives you the total of how much of each product there is. This is what NomadGo is doing, and it involves computer vision and spatial intelligence. In this episode, we talk how in the world all that stuff works, what it can mean for restaurants and other businesses where inventory is so key, and even a little, maybe true, maybe not so true, history of Costco. It is David and Jonah. Enjoy the NomadGo show. Alrighty, we are here with David Greschler and Jonah Friedl, co-founders, dynamic duo behind NomadGo, which I think I just pronounced wrong, NomadGo. But one of the coolest companies that you'll come across, one of the coolest I've ever come across. And so we're going to get into all things computer vision and AR and inventory and that world today. But before that, would love to touch on your backgrounds. And even before that, would love to welcome you to the show. David, Jonah, how you guys doing today? Thanks for joining.
Doing great.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. As a little precursor to your entrepreneurial journey with NomadGo. So David, would love to start with you. I know that you've been a serial entrepreneur for quite some time, and one of those, notably, Softricity, which I love the name, was ultimately acquired by Microsoft, which is, I'm sure we could do a whole separate podcast, incredible story by itself. But what was the biggest thing you learned from that, I will say, shockingly cool Softricity journey and the acquisition by Microsoft?
It all comes down to, product market fit. I think the thing I learned mostly is you really need to come up with a product that people absolutely need because they feel so much pain and you're there to fix their pain. And we did. At that time, it was the internet had just come out in the late 90s and people were still distributing software in enterprises, using CDs and DVDs. It was very painful. They were literally going from machine to machine, and every time they wanted to update, they had to do that. So very painful, very time consuming, labor intensive. What we did was make it available over the internet. And I know that sounds trite now, but all good ideas become very trite if they're really good. Because we were, at that time, Windows was running on 95% of all computers. We wrote it for Microsoft Windows. And so they saw that pain was something that they wanted to, fix for their customers. And so it was a really good match. And I would say that NomadGo fits this profile exactly the same way because there is so much pain out there around counting inventory. From the dawn of time, people have been using their fingers to count. Today, in the world's largest companies, restaurants, grocery stores, they're still using their fingers to count. So, what we've come up with, of course, is a really magical product that where you just like a magic wand, wave it around in front of a shelf or refrigerator or wherever you store inventory, and it instantly counts. And so, same sort of product market fit that, really solves a lot of pain for people.
You guys are literally creating magic then. We don't get to say that often, except for next week when we have a magician on the... No, I'm just kidding. But congrats on that. I mean, I think a lot of people, they sell their company to like a giant like Microsoft, and it's like, all right, let's just, retire, call it a day. What is it that's kept going and kept your curiosity going in the world you're in?
Well, one, I get bored really fast. I did try that little kind of séjour, and it was like, okay, now, okay. And that's when I reconnected with Jonah, who had started to look at some of the ideas that you see with NomadGo. And I love technology, and so it was a great combination. And Jonah's grit and determination, was clear to me that he would be a great partner in this journey that we've been on for now, I think 7 years.
You lasted 6 months in retirement, right?
I did. Yeah. It was about 6 months.
Short-lived.
Oh God, what do I do?
That's pretty good. You almost got to 7-8 months there, a full year. We'll count it. But Jonah, well, you actually read my mind there, because I was curious how you two connected in the first place. Like, from your perspective, Jonah, who's this David guy? Like, how did you first hear him?
David, 10 years ago or so, started off as a neighbor who, first as a neighbor, and then a neighbor that was known for having successfully started a couple different companies and the Softricity story. And I actually knew David's kids growing up. Remember being in David's garage, and he had a big Softricity sign up on the wall, and he had articles up, in frames about the Softricity days. So about 10 years ago or so, when I started my entrepreneurial journey, which started with a college class project, I actually looked to David for advice. So back then it was asking about things like patents and how to build the early versions of the technology and getting those first customers. So that's how our relationship started out. Is David was a mentor and an advisor. That progressed through the last couple of years of university, building the business. And then once I got out of school, we were kind of at a decision point on, this business that's been built up. Are we going to take it to be the big thing? Are we going to really do it? And that's when we joined forces full time and became co-founders.
So match made in heaven, match made in a neighborhood garage, pretty much.
In Kirkland, Washington. Yeah, there we go. But I'm just going to add one thing, because I know your listeners are real. They want to understand how businesses are made, and I think Jonah referred to the patents and all that. And yes, of course, we've done all that work now. But my advice to him was like, forget about all that. Right? Go find customers. And usually, when people come to me and I say that, they're like really disappointed. They're like, no, I want to build something. And it's like, that's cool that you want to build something, but go find customers. Go see if the pain is real and if people are willing to give you money. And usually, almost always, when I tell someone that, I never hear from them again. But Jonah came back like 4 weeks later with a couple customers. So I knew, perfect partner.
So let's NomadGo find NomadGo. Yeah, that rolls off the tongue. Let's get to the NomadGo story. So you kind of alluded to it there a bit, but really, really cool technology. I know your story in the several years since you've started involves pivots. It involves different types of technology. It involves different sectors. What was the first proof you saw, Jonah, like as you were talking about, needing to find customers? What was the first proof you saw that there might be a market for something in this, we'll just call it mystery space at this point that you're in?
The genesis of NomadGo is, like you said, we went through several different pivots. It's been years in the making. Where we really started to pick up traction was during our founding, 2017, and we were actually doing customer service analytics. So we were still in the retail vertical. We were still in the restaurant vertical, which is what we operate in today. But we were really focused on the front of house experience, the guest experience. So how long do guests have to wait? When do they abandon because a line is too long? We built that business up, started to feel that market pull in terms of repeatability, which showed itself pretty obviously. We had multiple different brands signing up. We were deploying to a good number of stores. In that business, though, there was something lacking, which was the pain that David was alluding to. This really obvious need. I need this product. It's mission critical. At the time, it wasn't obvious to us, but due to the pandemic, that business got hit pretty hard because no one was dining in the front of restaurants. And at that time, We had a customer who brought us to the back of the house and said, we know you're really experienced with computer vision. We know you know AI. Can you take that same technology and look at our stock, our inventory stock that's on the shelves, and can you measure that instead? I think that once we built that for that customer, seeing how the impact that data had, that's when I knew that we were really onto something with this current product that NomadGo is today. It is mission critical in the sense of if you don't do that right, you don't have product to sell the next day. If you don't do that right, you have disappointed customers. If you don't do that right, you have waste and excess and lost profits. We saw the pain with that one customer. We saw that pain with our second customer, the third customer, and then it was pretty obvious that we were onto something that's mission critical, very sticky, very important for the brands we work with.
And for anybody who's not familiar with the term, can you give a quick background on what computer vision is, besides maybe a Marvel superhero?
Computer vision is essentially giving computers eyes to see as we see as humans. So this glass right here, a human eye can look at that and say, that's a glass of water. A AI model can be trained to see that same thing. So that when you point a camera at this, a computer can interpret it and say, that's a glass of water. It can do other things like say, that's a half full glass of water. So that's what part of what our business is all about, is being able to point a camera at inventory that's sitting on a shelf and interpret it faster and more accurate than human eyes can do.
The computer vision piece lets you recognize, oh, that's a glass. But we also have other technologies running at the same time. The other key one is what we call spatial intelligence. And that is understanding the world in 3D. So it's not like just a 2D picture of that glass. If there were 5 glasses behind it, we have the ability to know that there are 5 glasses behind it. We see it in 3D. Think about how you might count a row of glasses. You're kind of doing that. You're looking in the world in 3D. That's what our technology does. So it recognizes, it counts, and then we use augmented reality to sort of place that number on that glass that says 5 and say it's a glass, because one of our deep philosophies, and this is really the origin of our name, is that the human has to be in the loop with AI. Okay, a lot of people, when they hear what we do, they go, "Oh, so you put cameras everywhere?" No, that now you have a second inventory problem. Your first one is counting your inventory. Your second one is counting all your cameras and the power and the network. That never scales. It never has. This is all about taking commodity devices, iPhones and iPads, and having a human in the loop as they scan. So that's why we give them instant feedback. All of it, and this is a really key core technology we've done since the beginning, runs on that device, so that we're not sending photos up to the cloud. We're not doing any of that. The only thing we send to the cloud is like the sum of what we've counted. That's it. So it's a very low bandwidth requirement, which for our target market, restaurants, is like heaven sent, because they don't have good bandwidth at those places.
Before you explain that was a glass of water, I actually thought it was vodka or gin. So I appreciate that before. And I'm not convinced. So, you never know. But, it's incredible technology. I mean, just as you were saying, like the vision and identifying an object, through AI is cool enough and impressive enough as itself. Once you get to the fact of actually like counting, then you really get to, wow, this can save a ton of time, really speed things up from an efficiency standpoint, as efficient as saying that word correctly, or saying correctly. But it just sounds like an unbelievable roller coaster in terms of the technology goes. What has been so far, and you don't have to reveal any, intellectual property or anything. What has been the biggest challenge in terms of getting the tech up to speed with what your collective vision is, with what you want to do with the company?
In the early days of creating a product, you're trying to figure out what's repeatable, what's custom for each individual customer that you're working with, and then what can be extrapolated and spread to, every brand in the restaurant industry or every brand in retail. I think that's been one challenge in the first couple of years, kind of sorting through that noise and trying to pick out the pieces that are the core differentiators that are applicable across everyone versus those things that are kind of one-off here and there. We're in the business of building a scalable company that's applicable to any restaurant, but also any vertical beyond restaurants. It could be logistics, warehouses, retail, what have you. So I think getting the technology to a place where you're building, and then it plateaus. And then once it plateaus, you're ready to spread it. Those are challenging early days to get at that point. Once you do, though, which is the phase that we're at now, it feels really good because it means you can be very good at a handful of things versus somewhat good across a wide area. So getting to that initial plateau of a stable, repeatable technology platform, I think that's been, at least my sense of the biggest challenge today.
And I think from a business side that you could ask that same question because, there's different degrees of benefits with this product. Like on one hand, people are counting with their fingers, they're highly inaccurate, and they're really slow. So improving that is very tangible. But you also learn when you talk to, we work with the largest companies in the world, right? So what you hear from them is, yeah, that's good. But this has a ripple effect. It's kind of like the last mile of inventory, has a ripple effect up and down the supply chain. So getting to understand how we impact the supply chain and, all the initiatives that are done. The IDC says there's $3.4 billion invested in innovations around the supply chain, right? Over 80% of CEOs say those initiatives are not working. And they're all, and when asked why, the majority of them say it's because the data is no good. It's the garbage in, garbage out problem. As you build a business, you get to understand sort of what are the tactical benefits that you're providing, but also what are the strategic benefits you're providing, so that the next customer you talk to, you can be a lot more educated about the impact of your product.
And that's like a burning question I have is that actual impact. So what do you think is the greatest potential or benefit that NomadGo can provide to a potential customer?
Well, I think I'll kind of try to tier it a little bit. Maybe you want to weigh in too, but I'm just going to start with one number, 45 minutes versus 5 minutes. Many of our customers, it takes 45 minutes to do inventory today. They usually do it once a day or a couple times a week. And now they're doing it in less than 5 minutes. Here's another number, 80% versus 99% accuracy. So they've done the work. They know that when people are counting with manually counting, they get about 80% accuracy. With us, they get 99% accuracy. The combination of the fact that they can do it much faster, which actually means they can do it more frequently, combined with the fact that they can trust the data, now has reverberations all the way up the supply chain. And the other thing we've discovered, again, this is through working with customers, right, is that it's not just about ordering either. One of our customers, has a daily prep, right? They prepare things, and that ties to food waste. So if you over prepare, you end up with food waste. If you under prepare, you don't have that for your customer. So they use our data to actually help them with the prep list. One of our other customers, more in the retail space, has this issue of they sell their product, but the companies that the grocery stores they're in, they don't give them the sales data on a daily basis. By using our scans, they now have sales data on a daily basis. The same exact data can be used in so many different ways to help customers. And that's what we've found to be the clincher here.
Oh, I like that. The clincher. The technology is super cool. And for anybody who's tuning into this, check out the NomadGo website because you have some demo videos that are really put in perspective of how the tech works, and it's mind-blowing stuff. On that tech note, when you're thinking about building a company and attracting new customers and growing and growing and growing, how much of your focus needs to stay on that the tech side versus the more traditionally on the business or marketing or other sides of things?
David can weigh in on once the company gets more mature, it gets to a softricity stage, but I think it's incredibly important in the stage we're in, where you have that product market fit, but you're still acquiring customers and scaling, growing. A good majority of the focus stays on the technology. You can't get complacent You have to keep pushing the boundaries, especially at the pace of where things are moving today with AI and augmented reality and virtual reality. If you don't stay on top of those things, I think it's really easy to get left behind. For our customers, it's very important because the more we innovate on the technology side, the more verticals we can service, the more inventory we can count, different types of scenarios and things like that. So I think we try to maintain a healthy balance. Obviously, we're focused on acquiring new customers and servicing our existing customers. But at the end of the day, we're a tech company. The more innovations we can do, it only helps our customer. Maybe that slows down as a company gets bigger. I don't know.
Well, I think you're right. That's who we are, right? Why are people buying us? Because we've built highly differentiated technology that really is a whole new category of counting, right? We call it spatial inventory. I mean, no one's doing it except for us. And to continue to be that innovator, the folks that have effectively invented the space, you cannot be complacent. So, of course, what does that mean? We bought an Apple Vision Pro last week and we're already trying to figure out how we're going to use it for inventory, right? Like you've got to stay on top of it. So that said, where we are, the other mistake a lot of startups do is they just rely on innovation and they forget that, you need to think about marketing. You need to think about establishing a sales force. The if you build it, they will come idea is BS, right? It's not true. At the end of the day, you still need to sell things. You need to market them. We're really doubling down on that investment as well, to make sure that we have a really healthy pipeline.
We might have to do a whole separate segment on the Vision Pro as well, a little unboxing here, but
it's fun.
Well, yeah, let's stick there for a second. What is your biggest takeaway from trying out the Vision Pro, hot off the press like that?
Game changer. I don't know. It is. You step out of that experience and you're disappointed with the 2D world in front of you, 2D screens.
A boring life.
It's a boring life. Yeah. No, it's revolutionary. I mean, I think that there are use cases that still need to be ironed out for your average consumer to be able to justify, getting one and using it daily versus just novelty use. For us as a business, though, it absolutely means more and more things being put into mixed reality and augmented reality, which is what we're all about. It means detaching our users' hands from a physical device so they can just freely look around and count things and speeding up their inventory count. It also represents advancements that we're going to see from people like Apple in terms of their hardware, their iPads and their iPhones, of what they can do, which we can build on top of. So for us as a business, we're super excited about it. Even if we're not going to have any customers putting on goggles in the next year or so, we're absolutely planning for that to happen in the years to come.
Yeah. I mean, it really speaks to everything we've been talking about, right? Understanding the world in 3D. So it's just the perfect fit for us. But again, we're still good with iPads and iPhones. Don't get me wrong. But eventually, my impression is like, a lot of people are like, oh, it's cool, but it's too expensive and it's kind of burdensome. And I think most people who say that haven't tried it. And if you try it more than an hour, you have to be in it like for 5 hours, you realize, oh, yeah, this is pretty seamless. I don't think they have to do massive advances to get to the point where it could be pretty streamlined.
And for those listening, we are all wearing Vision Pros right now, and it's just been the best conversation. No, but I appreciate the little aside there. And speaking of tech, like if you're a really cool company in the tech space that's trying to disrupt industries that have been doing things the way they've been doing for so long, like you have to truly spearhead or trailblaze, whatever term you want to use for that, but like you have to stay ahead of where the trends and where the tech is going. For each of you, how do you stay knowledgeable and also inspired in the space of tech innovation, we'll call it?
You asked me about why I didn't retire. It's the same thing. You just have to have the passion. It's just got to be there, okay? Like you can't fake that. And Jonah and I and other people in this company have the passion. We're here, yeah, sure, we want this to be super successful, but we're also here because we love the work day in, day out. Because bottom line is when you are, trying to build a company from scratch, you get a lot of no's. No. It's partly because you're trying to figure out product market fit. We talked about the pivots. So it's like, you got to just love what you're doing, believe in it. Even if you change your belief several times as you hear from customers. But it's like, and part of that is just you gotta, if you're passionate like we are, we love to check out the new technologies and then instantly go, how can that help us? How can, Chat GPT help us, right? Like, I mean, it's a fairly obvious thing. It's like, how do we put that into our product? Because, it's so powerful. So you got to love it. That's what it comes down to.
So there's a buzzword, or technically 2 or 3 words, depending on how you view it, that's come up a lot in this interview: product market fit. And I think it's so important to any business, but especially, startups and companies in the tech space. David, from your experiences across multiple entrepreneurial ventures, what's some of the secret sauce behind getting to product market fit sooner rather than later?
You've got to build enough so that people can try it, and that's hard because then you're like investing this time. You're kind of doing stuff on spec, really, and it's really hard. I mean, one of the things I've learned over time is you can show it to people, and they're going, "Wow, that's cool, that's great," but that usually isn't good enough. Like the moment is, okay, great. Will you sign this contract and give us, X thousand dollars to do it? That's when the rubber hits the road, and it's kind of hard to get to that if you don't have a product, right? So you're sort of in this middle state. And my view on it is try to get the idea enough along. People will buy into it if you just explain it to them, and just show them a few things. And then you can hear from them if they really want it. But I will say, like, even if that's true, sometimes then they sign and then you do it. And then, it's like, yeah, this was good, but it wasn't great. It's a really hard thing to explain. But boy, when you get there, though, it's like I like to think of it like the smoke clears and you just see everything totally clearly. And at that point, then you're ready to roll. And then you have to be ready to shift your gears and start building, start scaling, and really go. But do it at the right time so you're not wasting money.
And do you have any tips for doing that? Like, let's say the smoke is cleared. You see your, pun intended, that your vision is coming to life. Your product market fit has come to life. What are some of the best ways to scale that seems to work or seems to be effective no matter what sort of industry you're in?
Hire really smart people. I mean, honestly, that's your best way to scale.
It can't hurt.
And hire people. Here's the problem. Sometimes people go, oh, I'm ready to scale. I'm going to go hire a top executive from, you name one of the large companies in the world. That sometimes works, but I think a lot of times doesn't work. You need someone who knows how to get beat up and knows how to get a lot of no's and knows how to be able to go in there and be convincing even if the customer has never heard of your name before. You need people who are kind of street smart, but are also, enterprise smart if you're selling to large companies. And so it's a mix. And those are hard people to find, but you need to just find really smart people to help you scale. The other piece is when you get that customer, do everything that is possible to make them happy and build their trust. Trust is what it's all about, because if you build their trust, you can still stumble a little and they'll work with you on that. They're like, I get it. Hey, maybe we were too ambitious for this or that. But if you have their trust and you're 100% responsive and you're always there, that's how you win. I learned that in Softricity.
Are you brave enough to trust me to deliver the worst pun you've heard each week to your inbox every Thursday? Then the Podcasting to the Max newsletter is the place for that. Of course, you'll also get podcasting tips and entrepreneurship tips. And maybe, just maybe, I'll be able to pronounce entrepreneurship one day. You can sign up at maxpodcasting.com/newsletter, and you'll get things from all those worlds. And yes, the worst pun of the week you'll probably see. Now, let's continue talking about trust issues. So I trust that you're both up for the challenge for rapid fire Q&A. You ready for it?
You bet.
We'll see.
All right, let's wrap up some rapid fire Q&A. So there's going to be a mix. Some of these are for both of you, and then some are catered to each of you. So a little mystery box here. But this first one's for you, David. While you did not have the longest retirement in history, mm-hmm. What's an activity or hobby that you got into in that 6-month retirement that was your favorite part?
Songwriting.
Oh, what? Okay, now I have another one. What type? Like what genre or style of songs?
Oh God, I don't know. It's kind of a mix between like folk and jazz or something. Still do it. I still do it on the side to balance my life a little bit.
Jazzy folk. I dig it. All right, this one, I want to hear both your perspectives. How would you describe going into full-time business with your mentor or mentee?
Necessary. Having a co-founder, and especially a co-founder that's experienced. I mean, you need someone to keep you sane. You have good weeks, you have bad weeks. You have to balance each other out. So I could not imagine starting a business. Well, one, at the age I did, without someone who was experienced, who kind of paved the way, but also without a co-founder in general. You got to have someone else to ride the highs and lows with you. So necessary.
Yeah, ditto. But you need a really good co-founder. But let me be clear. who can endure the ups and downs.
That's an incredible word, necessary. It just needs to happen, like so many things in business. All right, Jonah, I know you went to Washington State. Am I recalling this right? Do people call it Wazoo, or did I make that up?
Yeah, Wazoo.
Okay, cool. All right, we will not need to edit that out. That's a win for Max. The Apple Cup. I know it's a crazy time for Pac-12 and the future of Pac-12, but just historically, the Apple Cup. What's an Apple Cup tradition maybe on campus that people from different parts of the country might not know about?
Having fun while losing is probably the best way.
That was not the point of that question, but okay.
Oh, okay.
no,
that's a tradition
that's funny.
You might not know about, especially at Wazoo. Despite history of losses and its 100-year history, we have a tradition of still making the best of it year after year. Very good at that.
Awesome. I went to Indiana University, and historically, football, it's the same sort of thing where we're known more for the tailgates than the actual games. But basketball is a rich history, but not right now. But we don't need to get into that. Thanks for bringing it up. Last one. This is for each of you. How ingrained in the city of Kirkland is Costco?
Well, I don't know if this is true, okay, but I thought I heard that the one that is in Kirkland, Costco, is the original Costco. But I don't know, is that true?
You heard that it is?
Yeah.
I heard that it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't? Okay, so we don't know the origin story. But I do know the story about how they came up with the Kirkland brand. They originally had like 20 different brands with their white labels. And then I guess when they paid millions of dollars to these consultants to like come up with different names. And then somebody inside the company said, let's just all call it Kirkland.
Kirkland
and
signature.
So that's why it's Kirkland. Yeah.
Oh.
But I will say Kirkland, Washington is a great place to live. It is a terrific place to live. It's on the waterfront. It's awesome. We love it.
It seems awesome, or wasm. The reason I asked that question was because I saw that you're both based out of Kirkland, and of course, obviously the consultants did something right, because I immediately thought, oh, I wonder if that has anything to do with Costco, and sure enough, yeah, there's the history there. So there's our fun fact Costco segment of the day. So David, Jonah, thank you both so much. This has been an absolute blast. Just endlessly fascinated and super excited to keep in touch with what you're doing with NomadGo. Where is the best place for people to learn more about NomadGo, as well as just individually if anybody wants to connect with either of you online?
NomadGo.com. Really simple. And like you pointed out, it's so hard to do kind of a podcast when we're talking about this, because what we do, the best part about it is, to see it working. And I know people go and they go on our site and they go, oh, that demo probably isn't really like that. It really is like what we're showing on the website. It really works that fast and that cool. That's a great place to go. And there we have our contact information there. We have, obviously you can see us on LinkedIn, connect with us. We'd love that.
And I can totally vouch for that. I second that. It's watching magic unfold before your eyes when you see your product in action. Once again, I cannot talk, but last thing here, final thoughts. Stage is yours. Whoever wants it can jump at it, but just send us home here with just like a one-line, words to live by, a little entrepreneurial advice, whatever you want. Send us home here.
Mine would be keep going. A lot of times over the history of the company, it would have been pretty easy to turn around, pack up shop, but I think the persistence always got us to the next milestone. And the longer you can keep going at it, your odds improve and you're more likely to have a breakthrough. So Keep going.
I would add to your persistence, patience, because, customers are going to take longer than you think. Investors are going to take longer than you think. Technology is going to take longer than you think. And so you need to combine Jonah's persistence with my patience, and that's how you win.
Persistence it is. Thank you so much, David and Jonah, for coming on the stow. Come on the stow. Thanks for coming on the podcast, sharing your incredible NomadGo story and beyond. And thank you, wild listeners, for tuning in to another episode. If you want to hear more stows like this one, make sure to follow the Wild Business Growth Podcast on your favorite podcast app and tell a friend about the podcast. And go try out NomadGo with them. You know where to find them. You can also find us on Good Pods, where there are good podcasts and podcast recommendations and people. And for any help with podcast production, you can learn more at maxpodcasting.com and sign up for the Podcasting to the Max newsletter. That is at maxpodcasting.com/newsletter. Until next time, let your business run wild.
Bring on the bongos!